Okay, guys, we'll get started here then. So good evening. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for webinar number 8 of the Saskatchewan Hockey Association's Development Series. Before we introduce our presenter, I'd just like to acknowledge the SHA staff that are joining us today. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Matt Miller. I am the Senior Coordinator of Hockey Development Grassroots. Also joining us from the office is Senior Coordinator of Hockey Development High Performance, Mr. Joel Hausman, and our Senior Coordinator Hockey Development Coaching, the Wiley veteran, Mr. Blaine Stork. Blaine, if you wouldn't mind introducing the guests that are also joining us tonight.
That's going to be tough to follow. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
All right, good. Anyhow, we've invited 5 minor hockey. Four, I guess. 4 minor hockey associations, right, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay. So tonight we've from Gravelbourg. I see we've got Jordan Breezebaugh there. That's good. Yeah, thanks, Jordan. Fort Capel minor hockey, Tyler Dickey. I saw Tyler on, he's probably, if I scroll over here, I can see him. Perfect. And Prince Albert, the legendary James Mays.
Thanks, buddy.
He's probably still taking a bow. There he is. Yeah. Warman minor hockey, you should have 2. I believe we got Cam Cater and Tyler Pellick. I see Cam.
I'm here for Tyler. Danae.
Okay. Danae. Okay. Awesome. And now Joel. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Blaine. I'll just introduce our special guest. We're really lucky to have him back again for another webinar. He was drafted in the 3rd round of the 1994 NHL entry draft by the New York Islanders, played over 600 games in the National Hockey League with New York, Vancouver, Chicago. My pleasure to introduce Jason Strudwick.
Okay, hi everybody. Thanks for having me today. First, Tyler, I spent a lot of time in Fort Capel. My grandparents were from right outside there, so I've been there many times. The Capel golf course, I think I know it as well as any course. My grandpa was a huge golfer, so it's great to connect to everyone. So the way I see this going tonight is I'll just kind of talk about some ideas I have on half ice hockey. In the Zoom group chat, I've already put in an article I wrote. Must be like 2 years now, maybe. Just about my thoughts of half ice hockey. I'm sure as y'all, and then we'll obviously all open for questions. If there's something that's really burning a question you want to ask during this, then by all means you can put it up in this group chat, or I'll stop. It's not like I'm on. I can't stop talking. So just give you a little bit of idea of my background. I did play in the NHL for a while, and then since retiring, I never thought I'd be a coach. I always thought I'd coach my own kids, but I've actually taken on a lot of roles of different academies. I help the owners with a lot of their young hockey player work. I work with really high-end kids. Mostly with them, I just try not to make them worse. So it's not I'm not really setting the bar too high for them. But for the young kids, I'm actually pretty productive. And the young kids are the ones I really like. I think that's because all my kids are young. I have 2 9-year-olds, so 2 in first year Adam, and then 1 in first year novice. So the last 2 years I've coached both my kids as teams. So I've actually coached 4 seasons of half ice hockey. So across Canada, I think I'm pretty uniquely positioned in my background and in the experience I have. I love the half ice hockey. I think it's totally age appropriate. I remember when it first came out, there's a lot of pushback from a lot of people who, are do great things in life, like doctors or nurses, or there were some others that were accountants, all great projects or all great professions. But when I hear them yelling about half ice hockey and how it doesn't make sense, I always ask them, well, why? What do you not like about it? Well, my son or daughter can't carry the puck through neutral zone. I said, well, everything that he or she's going to learn over the next 2 years, that's probably the easiest thing. You can send a moose out there to teach a kid how to skate a puck through neutral zone. But I believe hockey is all about decisions and making plays. And ultimately, I think that's what half ice hockey is about. I'm more convinced of that today than I was even 2 years ago. And I was a huge advocate back then. So one of my biggest things is the constant interaction. As a player, the whole time you're either attacking or defending. There's no middle ground. You're not standing around. Everybody's in the play all the time. There's always opportunity for you to be a person to get involved and take the puck away, make a play, get the puck, take a shot. Shot volume's way up from what we see on full ice hockey. Decision making's all over the place. You'll hear me say that 100 times. You're forced to make decisions with and without the puck. And I'm now coaching my son's team. He's an Adam, and I can see the difference between there's only a couple first years on the team. And there's a lot of good things about the second year players, don't get me wrong. But I see a lot of the things that I see my first year players are those decision making and making plays in tight spaces because they're constantly in it. Now, when a second year player who's only played full ice gets the puck, they're gone. And they are skating just like, Auntie Joe wanted to see them do, through the neutral zone. They do that well. But when you get in tight spaces, competing for pucks, all that, I absolutely love the fact that I see what in my first year players. And there's 3 of them on my team. So coaching part of it, I think that just a generic idea to start with coaching. I believe that coaches need to be very organized. I ran into situations where I think that people don't give the half ice hockey players or half ice hockey teams enough credit. And they just kind of wheel in there and they're like, it's half ice hockey. It doesn't matter. I actually think that we can make huge strides with half ice hockey players if we come in organized. And I'm a very organized person. When I start my, let's say we have a practice on a Saturday. Now I'm going to talk like we're not in the middle of COVID. So, but let's say we had a practice on Saturday. I would have my practice plan out to my coaches on Thursday. And I expect all the coaches to look through it and know what we're kind of doing. Obviously, I'll run it. That's not a real surprise, but I want them to have some idea when they arrive what their plan is. But I can't ask them to do that if I'm handing to them Saturday morning after Jimmy and Johnny are hungover because they were with each other the other night. So I think that's really important to have that organization and if you give the coaches the opportunity by giving them the practice plan, if they're not ready, that's their problem. Now, if you give it to them Saturday morning, that's your problem. So I always like to try to push that pressure back on my coaches. I believe in half ice hockey, work on the basics. That includes skating, passing, stick handling, and I include competing in there. Now, if in that list, I didn't have shooting. And the reason I don't have shooting is a couple of reasons. Number one, I've never met the hockey player that I had to go and talk to, like, hey, quit doing those pivots before practice. You got to stop. You're doing too many pivots. Go and take some shots. Like that doesn't happen, right? So everyone always wants to shoot the puck. So they're getting a lot of shots at home, on their driveway or in their basement when they're playing mini sticks. They're not working on their pivots down there. They're working on shots. So those kids gets a lot of shots. I believe that we have to focus on, like I said, skating, passing, stick handling, and competing. So let's start the skating. Skating, like I'm not a skating coach, but I've watched enough videos and I've seen how people do it, that I try to cover the basics. And, when I look at it for skating, I say, okay, what is the weakness of my team as a whole? Is it length of stride? Is it pivots? Is it crossing over? Is it tight turns? Whatever it is. And I try to hit as many kids as possible. So like if I have 15 kids and I think 12 are only tight turning with one foot on the ice, it's tight turns for a few weeks. And I try to build that up. Now I get to where, let's say we have only 3 kids that aren't doing it. Then I move on to something else. I try to fix problems. And that's something I believe in. You got to try to address it so that when you send your kids off to the next level, they're more prepared for that, right? So I think there are certain staples we have to be able to do. One of my habit things is 2-foot stops and tight turns. So I make sure I work on those things. And that might take till Christmas for in the case of first year novice players to get that right. I'll skip over passing and come back to it. Stick handling. I think this is really important. I try to do as much as I can with a puck on the player's stick. It can be a challenge when you're working specifically on tight turns. But once I'm getting decently proficient and I get enough of those kids doing it properly, I put a stick on their puck or a puck on their stick. And that might go for, again, in a normal year, I've kind of gone, September is kind of a weird time, but then October and once I get to November, it's stick on puck. And they're always doing stuff with that. For stick handling, I love having broken sticks. And I'll arrange them on the ice in kind of like lines, like chopsticks. And I'll have them stick handle around those and do moves like from your forehand to your backhand to your forehand, fake shots, they tight turnaround, all kinds of things. So that, what we're doing line rushes and they're constantly going through these pucks or these pylon or sticks, working on their hands. I think that stick handling is really, really important. to do. Competing. I think this is when I look back at my last 2 years, it's the area I missed out. I was so focused on skating, passing, and stick handling. I didn't work on this enough. I think part of it, to be completely honest, is specifically my son is very competitive. So it was an area I really felt that he needed to work on. And I think at times I'm blinded by that, and I worked on other areas that I would need to work on. But now we moved up to Adam, and I wish that I would have worked on it more as the group. So competing to me it means getting comfortable in contact. So you work a lot of battling drills and protecting the puck, and then also not just holding on the puck, but how to get it back from someone who's good at protecting it. So those are kind of competing things. I loosely put angling in there. I tried that, and I didn't necessarily love the results for 7 or 8 year olds, but competing I think is the big thing. The one thing though I was so adamant on was passing. Passing to me is the number one thing. I work with kids that are now in Pee Wee and Bantam, and I know they have different names now, but we'll just do it what we know. Passing, I was all over the kids for passing. So when I look at, I remember my first year with my son's team, kids weren't passing, because grandma's not giving out blizzards for a pass, right? Grandma's giving out blizzards for a goal. So I was so frustrated. I sent an email to the parents and I said, I don't want to hear you cheering for goals. I want to hear you cheering for a nice pass that Jason made to set up that goal. And I don't want to hear about, Jason being paid for goals. That drives me crazy. It's completely the wrong mentality. The way I look at hockey. I want my team, the culture you create begins with the coach. And it could take all year, with getting people to understand that don't just cheer for goals. Be excited about the pass. And then I got that by the end of my 2 years, I basically had the same thing for 2 years. My players would cheer loudly for the pass more than they would the goal. So let's say Jason made a great pass to Jim. It'd be like, great pass, Jason, great pass. And then that inspired more kids to make plays. And by the end of our 2 years together, we quite honestly just passed it around kids. And the other teams had no idea what was going on. But we got to go back to the beginning for that. So what I did is I worked tirelessly on passing. I had probably at every practice at least 15 minutes of passing, every practice. And that started right at the bare bones of, hands over, just stationary passing. Then I got us doing some passing, some shuttle passing. Then I got us moving forward and backwards, cross, kind of we were skating backwards, forward and cross. But I had so many passing drills that we did. And I did so much passing, but I didn't do a lot of drills. I probably had 3 or 4 drills we did over 2 years, but we got them really, really, really well done. And then I'm kind of working into practice where the guys understand when I get the puck, where my outs are, and I can pass to them. And we work through. And it worked well. It took 2 years. Another email I had to send after I gave it to the parents about cheering for goals. Some of the kids weren't passing, including my own son. So what I decided to do is that I'd say to them, you got one warning. So if my son's name's Kane, if you had a clear pass that you should have made, and you decided to make another move and lost it, I would give you the warning. So you'd come to the bench, I'd say, Kane, that's your passing warning. Okay, no problem. The next time he went and did the same thing, he missed a shift. And as long as a player at that age missing a shift is a big deal. They're very passionate about it. And that sounds hard, but I'll tell you what, I had 3 kids that first year I had to sit for a shift for missing it. And I only sat them once because after that, they passed the puck. There was no more gray area. When they got it, and I'm not asking to pass the ones that needed. I want them to try to make a play. Beat someone, then get your head up, and someone's coming to you. There's a pass. And I was ruthless on it. And we gave away a golden helmet after every game, and it wasn't for anyone who scored a goal. It was a guy who hustled and passed the puck. I was relentless on the passing, and I can tell you after 2 years, it was our kids were so much better at passing. We weren't the fastest kids. We weren't the biggest, but we passed it around teams, and there'd be times where we'd pass the puck 5-6 times, and there would be a backdoor tapping. It was just, we were so much above everyone in passing, and now it's moved its way into Adam, and I'm quite proud of that. There are some areas we have to work on, but the passing to me is the game. If you can't pass it and you don't have the mindset to passing, it's very difficult when you get older, at 14 or 15, to try to change that mindset. So I'm very much about unselfish play. Let's talk about practices. The way I look, I think practices are the time when that's for the coach. then the games are for the players. And the games are when the players can show off the new skills they've learned or they've kind of worked on. So my practice is the same template all the time. It never changed. Now the drills within those templates changed, but my template was the same. So every practice I start, so I'm assuming you have a 60-minute half ice practice. Now, if your ices are longer or shorter, if you have full ice practices, that is very lucky for you. But here in Edmonton, we get 60-minute half ice practices. So I start every practice with 2 games of 2-on-2. So I put the nets on the side by the hash marks, and I have a little area in the one end where we play 2-on-2 on one side and then 2-on-2 on the other. And it would be like 15-second shifts. So I'd have so I'd have black and red against whatever, yellow and blue. And we just each coach would run one. And it was all, before he could shoot, you had to take 1 pass all the time. And as they got a little bit better, it was 2 passes. So in that game, you learn about, getting the puck from the other team, getting your head up to make plays. So while this is going on, I'm still coaching. But a lot of it's for the kids. It gets the kids there on time because, little Tyler Dickey isn't coming. He's like, hey, when are we playing the game? When are we playing the game? Like, well, we played the game at the beginning. That was your 10 minutes. And it was always 10 minutes. It was if the practice started at 8 or at, let's say, 10 a.m., we went from 10 to 10:10, not 10:02 to 10:12. It was 10 to 10:10. And the kids knew it. And I'd have parents say like, dinner Tyler Dickey's given to me because we're late for practice because we're missing the games. Like, well, that's not my problem. That's your problem. Get them on time. So the kids were always on time. Number 2, it brings up their energy right away. They're fired up because they're hitting the game. They're like, they know it's a game. I never changed it once. It was always a game. So they come in hot. They were excited. They're ready to go. They knew their teams, and right away it brought their energy up. And then, like I said, the last thing is little Tyler Dickey wasn't asking me every 10 minutes if we're going to play a game. We already played the game, and the game was happening. So I really think it's important to start every practice with a small area game. I wouldn't change the games too much, and I would pretty much keep them consistent as far as the same games because they're always learning new skills within those games, especially these young guys. This isn't Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews. You're trying to teach them how to operate in a small area, how to get their heads up and make plays. And it's going to take months for them to see improvement. They will see improvement. And then that translates into the game. So you can coach while that's going on, but you're trying to get all those 3 things accomplished. For practices, unless someone is really passionate about goalie or being a goalie, I wouldn't address a goalie. So if, Joel said, hey, my son wants to be a goalie, I'm like, okay, Joel, you can play goalie sometimes, but most of the time I didn't have a goalie ever in there for practices because on my teams, no one wanted to be goalie. And now that might be different in your situation, and that's fine. But I think that those goalies benefit more from skating and working on their skills and all those types of things rather than being a target. And kids love having goalies in net. If they're really passionate, I would put one of the assistant coaches that was not paying attention in the net, and he could be the goalie. Unfortunately, it wasn't always ending well for him, but he started paying attention after a while. So that's where he was. And I just don't think there's a lot of value at that age in practicing as a goalie. That's my opinion. Now, maybe second year novice, if you want, you can do it. But quite honestly, my second year novice, no one wanted to be a goalie. We never practiced as a goalie. Then everyone knew their turn would come up. We'd put him in net. And a lot of times, we'd outshoot the other team, let's say 20-10, and the game would be 8-8 because our goalies couldn't stop anything. We had awful goaltending, but I didn't care about the score. I knew that we tilted the ice and we had the advantage. And as a group, my group was improving. So the goalies, I'm not passionate about having goalies in practice, but that's just a personal preference. I don't think you have to do it forever. I touched a little bit on the idea of the skating. I've always kind of worked on what the biggest problem was on the group. You can't always get everybody at the same thing, but like I said, when there's tight turns or stopping, those are 2 big things in novice at every tier that I see that we have to work on. And I've kind of worked my way through that. So after my initial game, I go right into skating. So I have about 15 minutes of skating, and I'd be consistent with it. So I might do, let's say, like I said, tight turns. I would do 4 practices in a row of all tight turns, or 4 days in a row of all stopping. And then I also have a station one in there. So just to recap, 10 minutes of small area game every time, get Tyler Dickey there on time. And then we'd have 15 minutes of skating so that's 25 minutes. So the kids have been pretty much constantly going for 25 minutes. I haven't been to the board one time, 25 minutes constantly going. And then we go into our station work. So at station work, I generally have 3 or 4 stations. If I only had 3, that means I'd probably do a 10-minute passing one. So I do 10 minutes skating, 10 minutes small area, 15 minutes skating. Then I might do 10 minutes of passing. And again, everyone's going all the time. Everyone's, they know the drills. I'm not reinventing the drills. They know what's going on. So that'd almost be about 35 minutes of small area games, skating and passing. And we haven't been to the board once. And you're constantly going. The kids are constantly going. And then I go into my small groups, again, 3 or 4, depending on how many kids I was going to have. And those would be 5 minutes. And so I definitely do a skating one. So let's say I'm working on stopping in the beginning. I'm going back with one of my stations stopping. I usually have a stick handling one in there for sure. And then I have something where we're passing and moving, two where we're passing and moving all the time. And again, this is quick. So, in between the skating and the passing, I might say, guys, you have 10 seconds to grab a drink. They go get a drink. Someone takes too long, hot lap. Everyone does a hot lap. Then we're right into our stations. I'm trying to keep these kids 60 minutes going as much as possible. People think it's hard, but the kids respond to it. They know it's like training a dog where to go poop in your yard. You have to be consistent and do it. And it'll take a while, but eventually I found especially by then the second year, my coaches were trained and the players are trained, and we were just ridiculously efficient, and we went through it. So again, we do 10 minutes of smaller games, skating for 15, passing drill for 10. When I say passing drill, stationary passing or a shuttle drill, where you have multiple places set up. So you might have 4 groups of 3 of kids doing it. Then my 4 stations. And if we have time at the end, I'd end with maybe puck pirates or something like that. I don't believe in the shootouts. I just didn't think there's a lot of value in that. I think that when I look at the ice and I see 2 kids going and 15 standing still, I think that's a loss. I even believe that in Adam. I just don't. I'm trying to have as many kids going as possible and doing something. So I like puck pirates where we're all skating around. And if I lose my puck, I'm not out of the game. I stay in and I become a pirate. So lots of reps. Like I said, everything I do is lots of reps, trying to get the kids as many reps as possible. In between drills. So let's say after the small area game and the skating, I'll yell out 10 passes. So I find each player will find a partner and they'll go about 7 feet apart, and they do 10 passes back and forth to each other. Then they go to get a drink. Then they come back for the next drill. So that 10 passes and the drink should take about a minute. So if you do 10 passes 4 times in practice, they get 40 passes in that time. If you watch a regular practice, young Tyler Dickey, he might be getting 5 passes of practice. So all of a sudden you do 5 plus the 40. Now Tyler Dickey has probably got more assists in his men's league now than he does if he did when he was younger. So we really have to focus on how can I squeeze in as much as possible. Now, some of you are probably saying, well, Struddy, we want to shoot. No problem. You want to do shooting? No problem. Instead of 10 passes, you get them to get a puck and they do 10 shots against the wall. Same thing, 40 shots they might get in that time. So it's quick. So you finish your 10 minutes comes up on the clock for small area games, 10 shots. They get a puck, they're on the wall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Grab a drink. While they're grabbing a drink, your other coach is setting up the skating drill. We're going right into that, right into the skating drill. 10 passes after 15 minutes, boom. Again, you do 10 passes, grab a drink, they come back, and you're into your next drill already. So it's just constantly going. And, I think it's huge. I really believe in setting tempo at the highest level. You don't need to talk a lot. These kids need reps. Now, if there's an area you really want to address, you bring everyone together and you say, okay, this is how you pass. And you work on the passing. And after you do that once, most of the kids will kind of figure it out. But let's say poor Joel can't figure it out. Well, you get, maybe Blaine takes Joel up on the side and say, Joel, this is how we pass. And you figure out one-on-one. And then that's how you improve your lowest kids, by having little one-on-one sessions. And then they all of a sudden figure it out. Now they get back in the main group and everyone's passing. I mean, to go over constantly how to pass when 80% of your team gets it for only 20%, I think that's inefficient. I think you got to get right to the root of the problem. Like what's inhibiting our growth here? Is it Jason Strudwick's passing? It could be. It's highly unlikely, but it could be. So let's pull him out and let's fix this guy up and get him going. And if there needs to be extra help, then you can say, you know what? Maybe I can meet you in your backyard. Your dad can come over to my house and we'll work on passing with my son and kind of work on that. So I think that is, I'm always trying to raise the bottom of my group and by still pushing the top. I don't want to slow down the top by explaining the most minimal thing, But the more you can push up your bottom, your top will keep on going. And I think you have a lot of success that way. So that's kind of my thing on practices. Games, I'd always put up 3 things on the wall I want them to do. And they're not long. Like, I'm not saying like this isn't fancy. It's like get to the puck first, crowd the front of their net, and get 3 takeaways. Something very generic. And then I tell my coaches, I know there's a lot of mistakes out there, but we don't have to tell Joel 10 things he did wrong. We know he's not the best player on the team, but we can tell him 3 things. The 3 things we want to work on, we can tell them those things. We don't have to keep working on 100 different. Tell them their kids are looking up. They're like, they just want to go play Lego after. They don't really care that you have all these issues. Hammer home the 3 things. I do that for repeated weeks or repeated games. So don't overcoach. Like on the bench, I'd have 2 coaches. So, we split up in 2 and 2 or two groups. I'd have like a head coach quasi, I'd always make sure there's a voice of reason on the bench, because you get those guys that are not voice of reason. I had the voice of reason. Then if I had a hothead, I'd have him on the bench if I need him. Usually I would try to pretend he missed his turn every time he was actually his turn. But so I'd be on one bench, and then the big troublemaker would be with me. And then the other bench, my other calm guy, then the other guy. And I would hardly say anything. And I'd have coaches come over after and be like, we can't believe how quiet you are. I'm like, well, what do you want me to tell him? If I look over and say, hey, Jason, you got to do this. You're not back checking. He's like, you know what my favorite color is? No, I didn't know it was blue. So it doesn't really provide any guidance. Just let him go out there. And then if there's a problem, I go back to practice and I work on the practices where I fix those issues. And then I'd always want my kids to play with a lot of energy and tempo. But I think by practicing like I do and bring that tempo in those games and getting them to push themselves all the time, that would carry over to the game. I didn't have to yell at them. I've never yelled. Only when they didn't pass. Then they had a problem with their coach. So basically to sum up, I think there's a lot of advantage to half ice. I think that I'm seeing in Adam now, as kids are moving to Adam, I'm seeing the half ice players are much more aware of making passes, and their head is up way more. And now this is only the tiers I've seen, but I see a lot more advantage in their heads up. They aren't as fast with the puck. They don't get the puck and just go. But when they do get it, they're looking around to make plays, and they're trying to make plays. And I think they're really comfortable in contact, which is something I think is really important. And honestly, I think we're getting away from that in hockey a bit, but that's maybe a conversation for another night. The battling, I think, like I said, we're seeing a lot of that in the battling. And I think that the kids, again, are very comfortable in that battling. And then the last thing I'd say is that, it's especially right now with this, but I try to do things on Zoom calls with the kids. So what I'll do is, like with my younger son who's now in first year novice, every Saturday I have it set up where we do a Zoom stick handling session together. And I find in that situation, I can correct some of the mistakes I see on the ice, and then it becomes more efficient on the ice. So you have kids that stick handle their hands together. I see kids that have their finger down, I don't know what this is on their stick. Kids, their hands are really far apart, their heads down, all this stuff. So I'm trying to break some of those things now, or in practice, on Zoom. So when I get to my other ones, now it's more efficient. But even doing 25-minute session, they get a lot of stick handling in that they might not do normally. And then that just makes them better for the practice. And now I can kind of say, okay, our group is here now. Let's try to do harder stick handling things. And I found it really has helped our group. Again, we're locked down here in Alberta, so it's not really great. But I've seen it in the past couple of years. I do with my other group the last couple of years. So that's kind of everything I got for you guys in a nutshell. So I don't know if anyone has any questions or conversations you want to have, but that's I'm passionate about the half ice hockey. I love it. I'm a huge defender for it.
For sure. And I was just going to tell everybody that if you want to just ask Jason a question, just unmute yourself. And you can just speak your question rather than putting it into the chat box.
I got one.
Yeah, sure.
Jason, when are you going to move to your grandparents' place near Fort Capel so you can help me?
Yeah, I love it. I loved it there. It was a lot of fun. It was unfortunately, I'm the least farmer kind of guy. I'd pass out at the sign of blood. I would be, if I had a cow or something, I don't know, I'd be awful. I'd be the wrong guy.
Do you have some good examples of drills you can run to get the kids to compete a little bit better? That's one thing you kind of have trouble with.
Yeah.
You should have a whiteboard.
Yeah, I do actually. I was just saying that. I got it right here. So obviously I opened it before. I just put it back in the package just for today.
Keep it clean.
Just kidding. So
Must have missed
yeah,
one in the mail place.
so I like I said in my presentation, I'm all about keeping it really simple, and you don't have to reinvent the drill. So I call this one Thunderdome, and again, everyone's doing it at the same time. So here, I'll show you. So what I would do is so everyone, you put pucks along the dot line. So let's say we have a puck here, puck here, puck here. Just how many kids you have, right? So I'll just do it. So that's on the dot line. Then you'd have two players against the wall. Their feet are touching the wall, just like this. And same thing over here. But if you had more kids, like, you can fit, those tiny little kids are so small, you can fit way more kids than that. So I'm standing here. This is me in the middle, good looking guy in the middle with my whistle. And I control it. Everyone goes on the whistle. So when I blow the whistle, these two players race out to this puck. And the first person gets it and they protect it in a small area. So let's say this is him here and the other person's behind him. I want them to stay in a small area like this. I don't want them skating all over the place. I'm in here again, the good looking guy. Everyone's gone on the whistle. When I blow the whistle, they stop. And whoever has the puck puts the puck back on the line and gets right back on the wall. The other person I do 2 or 3 push-ups just to add a little intensity. And so as soon as I blow I say, blow the whistle, we race out there, we protect it. We're all going together. I blow the whistle again. Jimmy doesn't have the puck. Tyler Dickey puts the puck in there, go on the back of the wall. Jimmy goes back on the wall, and I'm counting down. So as soon as I blow that whistle to stop it, I start counting 8, 7, 6, and that gets their asses in gear. Otherwise, they're going to take time. They're going to look around. So they have basically 7 or 8 seconds to now get back on the wall really quick, and they go again when I blow the whistle. And I can make sure everyone's lined up. Now, if Tyler Dickey's screwing around, I blow the whistle, and Tyler gets screwed because he doesn't get that puck. And Tyler figures out pretty quick he's got to get his ass going and get back on the wall. So this only takes 5 minutes. They might do this 7, 8 times in 5 minutes, and they are bagged. But that's going to get their intensity up because you got to envision this. This is maybe like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 16 players going in there. If you have goalies, I always put goalies in. Goalie on goalie violence. Nothing I like better than seeing goalies battle. So I put the goalies wherever, and they're battling same thing. Why can't they learn how to battle? So this one I call Thunderdome. I call it Thunderdome. And let's say, Tyler Dickey is abusing Jason. Well, we walk over and say, Tyler, go over to whatever, Fitzstrick, who's a lot busier, and Jason takes on the little guy. So this is one of my favorite drills at the end of practice. And especially if a game the next day, it gets the kids right in battle mode. They have no choice but to get into battle. So this is my number one, Thunderdome. Thunderdome right here.
Right on. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's a winner. It's a real winner.
That's a great one.
Yeah, it's a great drill. It's a really great drill. To work on that one. I've actually got another drill I want to show you guys just here for the so I talked about the passing, and what I would do is I find in this level to try to get the kids to learn to make plays. So the pucks, let's say they're all starting here, and the pucks are all starting here. So this one has to happen this would be the end of the drill, end of the day drill, right? So on the whistle, so there's players at every X. This is like a player, right? So the X's are pylons. So what I would do is I blow the whistle, and as soon as this first whistle goes, this guy skates halfway and passes to this guy, takes his spot. Skate halfway, pass to this guy, take his spot. Skate halfway, pass to this guy, and then shoot it. And the same thing's happening over here. So you're getting the kids the idea of the goalie makes a save, you pass out wide, you pass to this guy, then skate up. And I found, because they started out a little structure to what they're trying to do. But when you're doing this now, you have a lot of kids moving at once, because once this guy leaves with the puck and passes this guy, and this guy starts moving here, the next guy's already going. You can have coaches jumping in here. So you have constant players going. So as soon as Jimmy shoots, he jumps over here and he's skating halfway and passing to Tyler. And the pace is really, really high. Then he can get up and go the other way. It's a really easy setup. If you have goalies, great. If you don't, doesn't matter. But it's just a really good way, because I find in novice, your goalie makes a save, and you have 4 people around here trying to get a puck. It's useless. And, I hear guys, get to the wall. Well, show them where to be. Show them that they're to be on the wall here. Then this guy can be up here and this guy can be here. So it's kind of a quick pass out, transition, attack right away. So within 2 passes, you're attacking the other net. All right, so that's a good drill. And I'll show you one other drill here. This is my favorite passing drill. I call it the X passing drill. So, you might start. So this is pylon, 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 and pylon. So you'd have 2 players starting here, 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 and here. Now, when you get better, you're going to have it on the 4 dots. When I say get better, when they have better efficiency. But for now, I think you have one set up like this. So this is 5 kids here, 5 kids here. You can make it 7 kids, doesn't matter. So this guy starts the puck. So he's going the pattern of an X. Skates halfway, pass to this guy, takes his spot. Skate halfway, pass to this guy, takes his spot. Skate halfway, pass to this guy, take his spot. Skate halfway, pass to this guy, take his spot. And it's just constantly. So it's X. That's why it's the X. So what you're going to find here is that little Joel Houseman, when he's standing here, he's not paying attention. The puck's coming from over here. Joel's eyes are over here. Joel has to figure out he's got to be ready. So it's a really good training lesson. When you go around and you see Tyler Dickey's ready to go, but Joel's screwing around, someone pulls Joel out and says, okay, Joel, look, this is what you have to do to be ready. And right away, you see the problem. Like within 10 seconds, you'll see the kids aren't paying attention. So Blaine can pull them out. Blaine can talk to them, say, this is what's going on. Then you feed them back in the drill. Now they're going. And this drill, we got up to, so what we do last year, we'd have it set up here like this. And we'd have 5 pucks going. So you'd have to have maybe 3 here, same thing here, and same thing here. And you might even have some coaches jump in to have enough players. So you can imagine having 5 pucks going. It was an absolute gong show. But if little Joel Houseman wasn't watching, the whole team knew it was Joel Houseman. And I'm not trying to shame these young kids, but they figured out pretty quick because they don't want to get pulled out by Blaine. And Blaine's like, hey, Joel, you got to get your head on right. So you can think about if we have this guy going here, this guy going here, this guy going here, this guy going here. As soon as he leaves, another guy goes. 5 pucks is pretty impressive. 5 is the best I've seen. If you can beat that, I mean, I'm sure Saskatchewan's better, but if you can get to 6, that's pretty impressive. But this drill, if you're looking for the issues in your passing game, this will figure it out because there's nowhere to hide. Because it's obvious. If you're not looking where you're supposed to be, you're done. So start in a small area, 2 groups, and you can have more than 1 player at each pylon. But once you get big enough, you put it in here. And this drill is money because by the end, everyone's paying attention. Then what might have an issue with passing. They say, oh, well, geez, Blaine can't pass. Okay, well, we got to go back to step 1 and show Blaine how to pass properly. But this is the money drill right here. I shouldn't probably be telling Saskatchewan my best moves. But yeah.
Breezeball, that's a good one for you. You got some work to do to catch up to Strudwick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to add that one to the repertoire.
You better build her from the ground up. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, so this drill, like, let's say you decide you're gonna do just so. I do a lot of times just stationary passing, right? So I'm just like this. This will be one of my drills, and we're just passing it back and forth, So this is where you start. And after the month, maybe you're like, okay, we're getting pretty good. Just try the X passing drill. What's the worst thing that can happen? You're like, well, our passing wasn't bad, but we weren't paying attention. Okay, well now we know this. The issue is our paying attention. But maybe there's 2 or 3 kids that are still having trouble with passing. Pull them out of the group, keep working with them, and then bring them into the X passing drill. And like I said, you're always trying to push your top kids while lifting the floor up. And I think this to me, it was so good. It really paid attention. Showed quite quickly what could be done. Yeah.
I got a question here. Well, maybe a couple comments and question. This is fantastic stuff. This is you kind of preaching to the converted here. This is Cameron Warman, but some of the drills you showed are perfect for what we need. Myself, I've coached. Sorry, I have the video off because otherwise mine freezes. But I've coached 2 of my boys. One's already done hockey. The other one's in 2nd year bantam. But I'm the development person, so it's going backwards. And going through 2 birth years of kids pretty much all the way through minor hockey. One of the things that I noticed is like there's kids with innate ability where they have their head up and they move the puck, but that head up is so critical that you see it in IP, and then you see them now in Bantam, AA, and AAA, and then you see kids that just drop off. And so that's one of the things that, how do you nurture that? I mean, you do the small area games and what have you, but maybe comment on that. How do you nurture that ability for the kids to have their head up, and how you, I guess, engage them to try to have a change of behavior?
So I'll be completely honest. Like I wasn't the greatest hockey player, but I finished at a certain level. And at first I was always like, why don't they just know this? Like, why don't they just know to keep their head up? And I realized pretty quickly that if a player can do something, assuming there's no behavioral issues or listening issues, whatever, the problem isn't them, it's me, because I haven't worked with them to fix that spot or fix that issue. And I'm not arrogant enough to think I can get a kid to skate his head up after 1 year of coaching him, but I'd like to think I make an improvement. So, I hear guys on the bench all the time, like, pass the puck. Why can't you pass the puck? Well, I just want to walk down and talk to Blaine, like, Blaine, are you working on passing? Are you working on have the passing? And if you're not working on it, what do you expect? And it's the same thing, I would talk to you guys about D-men. If you don't work on breakouts with your D-men, how can you expect them to be good breaking out? So I think you have to constantly work on the heads up thing. So the foundation, I believe, is the ability to skate. Like, not like Connor McDavid, but just the ability to skate. And then you add the puck. So now they feel comfortable skating and with the puck on the stick. And then you try to put them in situations where their head has to be up all the time. And it's going to, like I said, it took me 2 years. And I feel pretty confident to say that most of my group has their head up over 50% of the time, which, it doesn't sound great, but considering how old they were, I was pretty happy with it. But I do have a couple drills you can work on that'll help. But again, it's, I think as coaches and as developers, I don't think you have to have 1,000 drills. I'd rather do one drill really well. Like when I was younger, we used to go to weddings, and I have a sick move I would use at every wedding. And people thought I was the best dancer, but I wasn't. I was good at one move, but man, was I good at it. And my wife fell in love with me watching me do it. So obviously it worked. Tyler Dickey, you probably got a couple of moves from Fort Capel too, but that was what I was pretty good at. So, okay, let's start with a pretty basic one. So this one is probably not a first year novice group. This is probably a different group. So this would be, I'm just going to put an X for the player who's stationary. He has the puck. Then I would put it forward on the wall here like this. So pretty basic. So what would happen in this drill is that this guy's just going to knock the puck so it kind of lands about just pass it against the wall so it's about a foot off the wall. This guy is going to come in and grab the puck on an angle, and he's going to shoulder check as he goes in and look to see where this guy doesn't move and it sticks right here. This guy comes around, takes a couple steps, past him, and comes all the way here, 2 foot stop. And then as soon as he 2 foot stop, this guy dumps the puck back in the same area. He's going to go back again, shoulder checking, and he's going to come back and pass to this guy on his forehand and come stop here. So he's going to go there and back, always stopping. So what we're trying to introduce is this idea of shoulder checking every time. I would not introduce this to first year novice. I don't think that you can introduce the idea of going to get it, but the idea of shoulder checking and getting and making a pass and going back to the same side, in my experience, was too much. But to start the second year, I think they can definitely learn to do. It might take all year to get this right. But this is a drill I think is always about shoulder checking. So that'd be a real basic one you can start with. And then the other one, how did I do that? So I'd basically put a net like right here. And then I think I had a player start right here. And then I have a player kind of start right here. I think this side works. So this guy has a puck. So what happens is this player has to decide to go to one side or the other. Whatever side he goes to, this guy has to react and skate around really quick, get to the other side. So it's really basic. It's really quite basic. But the coach is right here. He yells, go. This guy takes off one way or the other. This guy's got to start moving. Once he sees him commit, boom, he comes around and comes into this spot. Then the coach feeds the puck back to him, and now we start here again. So it's getting this idea of skating with his eye up. What you don't want the player to come stand here, then go one way or the other. He chooses that side and goes one side or the other for sure. And that's a pretty basic drill, but they're forced to get their head up as they come up. Then you can make it a little harder. Like maybe this guy starts facing this way or does a quick tight turn while this guy's coming up, and now he's got to identify where that guy's at. But anything to make them get their head up is really important at that level. So those are two drills I use a ton, and they actually work pretty well. But I don't know. People say you can't coach hockey sense. I think that you can improve it by constantly, like, I didn't really talk about this, but at the start of a year, I've decided what are the things I want to work on. So obviously you guys know it's passing. I was all over passing, but now that we're into Adam, and especially that second year novice, it was always get your head up and make a play. What do you see? Blaine, what did you see to make a play there? Like, was there a play there? Was there not a play there? How come you didn't pass it there? Why did you pass it there? Like all those types of things that, as a coach, I don't think you can work on everything. And maybe I'm naive as a coach, but there are some things that I wanted to work on, and I would hammer on those all the time. So my passing and heads up would be all the time. And then, I'd have things that kind of come and go over the year, tight turn, stopping. But those passing and head up, if you can teach those two things coming out of novice, so at least they have a clue that those two things exist and they're not just some weird button on their gaming controller, then I think you have a big advantage for your kids.
Great
Hey,
stuff.
Jay, quick question. Obviously, you've been doing this for a few years. We have been as well. I think Cam kind of said you're preaching to the converted. I'd say that's probably fair. What are some of the things that, when you get challenged on, half ice hockey? I'll give you an example. I was telling this to Matt the other day. I had a guy go, "Wow, it's not real hockey." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I'll tell you what." I said, "Next time we play, keep track of how many breakaways there are, because here we play full ice after Christmas." And this dad, I afterwards asked him, like, "Well, how many breakaways were there today?" He's like, "I don't know. Must have been 30. I said, "Okay, now think about a real hockey game. How many breakaways are in a real hockey game? Maybe one." Mm-hmm. And the guy was like, "Yeah, okay, good point." Right. So I guess I'm asking, what are your responses sometimes when you get challenged on half ice hockey? Yeah. Other than maybe the skill development side, what else do you kind of use to help paint a picture?
Yeah, well, there's some people you're just not going to change your mind, and that's fine. Like some people still think the earth is flat, and I'm not going to believe them, right? Like I'm not going to buy into that kind of discussion. I'm really passionate about it, and people talk about, I talked about at the beginning about they're concerned that my kid is not going to be able to skate through neutral zone. I'm like, so what I would do, I would suggest to you, I guess, maybe like I remember there's this one, like she's a realtor. I coached her son the first year, and her son isn't going to be able to carry the puck to neutral zone. I said, okay, when you watch an NHL game, where does most of the play take place? And she's like, well, it's all over the ice. I'm like, oh, okay, that's good to know. That's good information. So where specifically on the ice is it? And she's like, I'm not really sure. I'm like, well, you know what? I don't know how much the house is going to sell for in Devon, but I know where the ice is going to be on the ice. So what I would suggest is you watch an NHL game and then you come back and tell me where the play happens. So she did. To her credit, she did. She's like, you know what happens all in the end zones? I'm like, oh, gee, are you serious? That's amazing. So below the blue lines. And she's like, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm like, well, that's what I'm telling you, that your son is right where he needs to be, because all the action happens below the top of below the blue lines. And honestly, a lot of the real stuff happens from the top of the circles down. So I think as a coach, if I can coach those kids and teach them, learn them how to protect the puck and get their head up and compete for the puck and then get shots off quick in traffic, it's a lot more beneficial than, Laura, the realtor giving her son a blizzard because he has 3 breakaways going the full end of the ice with the puck. Now that looks good. And we all know it looks awesome on social media. Holy shit. Did you see my Tyler Dickey score 3 goals on a breakaway? Now, Tyler, I know you're not that fast, so it never happened, but we're just pretending in this situation. But holy shit, did you see my son on Instagram? I can't believe it. And then 5 years from now, when Tyler Dickey is no longer playing hockey because he's not scoring 3 goals every game, he doesn't know how to score below the top of the circles, we failed him. And so I love having disagreements with people. I have them all the time. Second point. So my son just went into Adam, my oldest son, and he's not great. I mean, he's a pretty good player, but and I have parents who are the same age who decided to go into Hockey Super League last year. And I'm not saying the Hockey Super League is not right. I don't think at a young age it's a good idea. And I asked them why. Well, because Jason's a D-man, their son. Okay, so Jason's a D-man. That's great. So what is he learning right now? Oh, you should see him break the puck out. It's amazing. Oh, no way. Are you serious? So he's able to break the puck out with 5 small humans on his team. Yes, he is. And I say, okay, well, can he score? Well, no, he's a defenseman. Well, what do you mean? He's 8 years old. You're telling me you've decided for Jason that he's a D-man. You know he's going to end up like me, like Jason Strudwick, because I have no offensive abilities, 0 offensive abilities. And if you're not teaching that, if they can't learn on their own at 8, do you think they're also going to figure it out at 15 how to score? Because what is every D-man coach, or what is every coach telling their D-man when they get to Adam? Stay on the blue line. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't get in there. Stay on the blue line. Don't go in and try to score. So, Tyler Dickey, who isn't scoring any goals as a D-man 7 or 8, is now being told to stay on the blue line. Do you think he's going to have any offensive instincts? No. But the kid who's playing half ice and going back and forth, or maybe he's a forward in first year Adam, D-man second, and gets to P when he's not really sure back and forth. Well, he has offensive instincts. So he's actually will be behind that D-man who played at 8. But eventually, I believe he's going to pass that kid because he has a more rounded skill set and can create offense. And now if you can't create offense, you may as well do your own radio show. I mean, that's what it's all about. So, so I'm really passionate about it. And I have these discussions all the time with people and with goalies. Wow, whatever, young Bill Ranford has to be in net all the time. Oh, really? Okay. How does Bill skate? Well, he's not a very good skater. Okay, have you seen NHL goalies skate? They're amazing. They're amazing skaters. And so your son is going to be the one that doesn't need to skate as he gets older. Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm like, okay, so when is your son going to learn to skate? If not, when he's 7 or 8, when the games don't even, but when there's no goals, if you score, win or lose, it doesn't matter. Oh, he'll learn. I'm like, well, win. Tell me when, because once he gets to Adam, old Billy Ranford's in the hockey all the time. He's doing his, all his goalie training, all that stuff. So is that the year he's going to learn? Well, no, but okay. Well, tell me when. You tell me when, and I'll decide when it's going to work for you. And eventually, that kid too, same thing. He's going to get passed by someone who played a little bit of everything, and go on. Now, obviously, there's anomalies out there, but I'm talking about on average. This is my belief about half ice hockey and why I think it's important. If you can't learn to score or create some kind of offense when you're 7 and 8, it'll be more difficult as you get older because the other players get better around you. I want everyone to have a chance to score. God, I wish I would have scored a few goals. Right? It would have been nice, but my dad decided not to let me to do that. He rewarded me for hits. Grandpa gave me a blizzard for every time I hit somebody at 8 years old. Grandpa from Fort Capel. It's a tough area.
Yeah, that's good. I have a little guy. He loves goalie, and he'd play net every day of his life. It was up to him, and I'm like, listen, dude, you got to be the best skater on the team if you want to carry around 20 pounds of extra gear to do your job when you're older. So I'm like, you got to skate. And we do put it every week. I give a kid an opportunity to play net, but every kid plays net because I think at 7 and 8 years old, those guys, they have no idea what position they're going to want to play. And I also think it's pretty easy to stick a 7-year-old or a 6-year-old in net and you bury him there. And then by second year Adam, he hates it. Well, now you've only developed one kid in one position and now you got nobody from, second year Adam for the next 7 years in your association to play net. So I agree with you. I think, you got to have those fundamentals, but I was just curious how you handle some of those objections.
It happens all the time. And I'm not going to lie, Short Park is a really good association around us. So, I identified who our best goalie is. And when we play against Short Park, he's in net for that game. I like to compete too, but he doesn't do it any more than anybody else. And that was just happened to be his turn in rotation. Right. So we have a good performance against Short Park, but it's never if we play a game and there's a lot of scoring, although second I thought it went down a ton, but if you lose 11-10 in a game that no one's keeping score, does it matter? I see coaches walk out there all pissed off. I'm like, did your team improve? Are they consistently improving? And if they're not, then what are we doing? We're doing something wrong, right? And that'd be the last thing I'd say to parents that you're talking about is that for the first year, did your son improve? Yes or no, or daughter, whatever, in half ice? Yes. So why are you going to move them somewhere else where maybe you think they might improve? Where now all of a sudden there might be coaches that don't play you all the time. They'd only want to work with their son, because usually the guys that move out are pretty intense and they might not play your son as much. Like, why move them out of a place where they're learning? You wouldn't do that for school. Well, you know what? It's pretty good. Dickey actually was an 8% student this year, but you know what? We're going to move him somewhere else. Why? He's 8% student. That's pretty damn good. So, like, people get a little crazy when it comes to hockey. And, this isn't a race. It's not the race to be the best 8-year-old on the planet. You want to love the sport. And if you really want to be good about it, then, when it's really time to hammer down around 14, 15, I don't want my kids burned out at 8.
We've been getting a couple here too. With Offsides at U9, do you have any tips or ideas that you could maybe tell a coach that they could help with the kids learning Offsides?
For U9,
U9 before they get into U11?
Yeah, I'd say it doesn't matter, because like my kids are now in grade 4 and they're learning division. You don't go into grade 2 and learn division. Hey guys, let's sit down. We're going to figure out long breakdown division. Everyone sit down and get a paper out. We're going to divide 3 million by 2 million. Like, to me, it's I didn't spend 1 second on Offsides, not 1 second, because if kids want to learn offside, they can watch the game on TV, right? So the ability to figure out offsides at 9 going into Adam is way different than 7. At 7, I'm just hoping to have their skates on the right feet. That's literally if I can get the first day, everyone have their skate on their right feet and then remember their water bottles, that's a success. So the idea of teaching offsides to 7-year-olds and actually spending working practice time that as a coach we hardly have no time to work on, to me, it's a waste of time. It's a complete waste of time. So I didn't work on it at all. I didn't spend a second on it. Not once, not one time in my half ice hockey. This year, my first year kids, most of them play spring hockey. And to be fair, my son played as well. And I'd work on it a bit there. But again, I was more worried about the skills. They could figure out offside later. If my team goes offside 6 times in a game, and if I would have practiced it, would have maybe only once, it doesn't really make a difference. But if when they get in the offensive zone, they can skate and make plays and pass, that I think is an advantage, right? So, I pick and choose what I spend my time on. Practice time to me is so valuable. Usually with your team, at least in Edmonton, we have 1 practice a week. So that means I get 240 minutes with my team a week, 240. So if you think about that, 40 minutes already gone because I do 40 minutes of time. So I'm down to 200. And then you take out another, 60 minutes because of my skating. So now I'm down to 140 minutes of practice time, plus the 10 minutes of passing. I have 100 minutes of practice after I've done my games, my skating, and my passing. 100 minutes over 4 practices. If I spend time trying to teach offside, that 100 minutes is gone faster than Tyler, Dickey, and I can drink a bottle of rum. Gone like that, so quick. So we have to be so selective with what we work on. So to me, I had people push back. Parents would be like, hey, we got to work on this. Like, when you're the coach, you can work on it. But when I'm the coach, we're not working on it. And at the end, they saw that I was, mostly right, like 70% right. But that practice time, man, at a young age, I don't want to waste it talking. They can hear me. If they want to listen to me talk, they come over to my house and I'll show them videos of how great I used to be. But I really try to be efficient. I'm trying to get as many times I can through. Like when I think about the 10 passes, if you have 20 practices a week or a year and you do 40 passes in practice, that's 800 passes those kids are going to do. 800 passes. Now, if every other team doesn't do that, but your team does, you have 800. You'd be lucky to get 800 passes in a regular 20 practice. It's not going to happen. So your son or daughter or player might get 1,000 passes in your passing in your 20 practices. 800 of them are forced, but still, that's 1,000. Another team might get 200. So would you rather do 200 passes or 1,000 passes? And so to me, it's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer what's more important. So I try to jam as much as I can and be as efficient as I can. And then I'll figure out the rest when they get old, because it's like division. And, we're working on division in grade 4 here in Alberta. Maybe Saskatchewan, you guys do a little earlier or maybe a little later. But the thing is, like, it's so key. Just when they're ready to accept that learning, they'll be there. And there's no need for me to figure that out.
Hey Jay, I'd get your commentary. You sort of mentioned it there quickly, because there's a lot of pressure, like you talked about with hockey parents and whatnot. But you mentioned spring hockey, and your boys are participating. What's your guidance or commentary on spring hockey participation at the U9 level?
Yeah, you know what? I didn't want to do it. Everyone says that, right? But they made me do it. Like I didn't want to drink those 20 beers. But so you know what? So my older son went through it. Like I said, he just went to Adam. And the reason I did it he's a really big guy and his skating was an issue. So I wanted to spend some time working on his skating. So I set up, it was 8 weekends. But I made a mistake. I made a real mistake. The guys I went with, they're good buddies. And they were like, we got to play games. We got to play games. And I didn't like that idea at the beginning. We made a huge mistake because our kids had no idea what offsides were. As I just explained. They didn't really know positioning. Our goalie, I think most of the time he had his gloves on the wrong hand. Like it was a gong show. And what I should have done, and what I'm going to do with my younger son now, is I'm just going to do development. And then maybe we have a tournament at the end. And at the end, I don't even care. Like just go out there, wear your fancy jerseys, and you guys can play anywhere you want. You go outside, you ice the puck. I don't care because I want to have, like, let's just use that number, 8 weekends. 7 will be purely developmental. Then the 8th one's the party. Right. So it's like, which is the tournament. And that is how my mind is shifted. Like these people, I don't think there's anything wrong with games, but if like what I felt that first year is like, I was trying to teach them breakouts and they weren't good enough at passing the puck. So in the middle of the game, I'm diagramming things. And while I'm saying them, like, I can't even pass. So why are we talking about this stuff? Right. So, I've come around to like spring hockey. Like I enjoy it. But I for the younger kids, like for my younger son, it'll be, like I said, it'll be 7 weekends of practice. Like when I say practice, it's still fun. It's not like it's I'm running him into the ground, but it'll be development. And then we're gonna have a tournament. I don't care if you want to go to Banff, Canmore, Saskatchewan, Prince Albert. I'll even come to Fort Capel for a tournament. But I don't care what happens at that tournament. We're gonna open the door. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Then we're all done after. And then if parents complain, if they come, Jason, we lost. Yeah, we did lose, but did your son improve? Well, yeah, but we lost. Well, who cares? You can't put it on your Instagram? Like, I don't know what your problem is, but your son improved, and that's what my job is. It's not to win tournaments. If you want to win tournaments, you can find teams that are about that. My job is to improve the players. So that's where my head is with spring. And it wasn't a disaster, but I'm very methodical. I like to keep building up. So then there comes a point where kind of everything comes together. Now they're truly ready to accept, what it is you can teach them. But if we can't skate, pass, stick handle, and get our head up, the game is pretty difficult. And I find it was actually quite inefficient that first year of spring hockey.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad to hear you say that. I was the same way last year. I had no interest in taking my kid to 4 traveling tournaments and play until June. I was much more apt to do, development. And then if we snuck into one tournament, I thought that might be fine. So I'm on the same track. I'm just curious how others are handling that when, they're being asked, or, if, others are saying, hey, what do you do with spring? So no, I appreciate that.
That's tough. But you have to, so, I mean, we all have kids here. So you have to look at what is my son's issue? Like, what is the big issue? My older son and younger son are different. My older son's very big, very strong and competitive. My younger son is faster and a better skater, and he's more lippy like his mom, so I don't know if that's good or bad. But so, you have to look at what your son needs. And as the coach, you can make those choices, right? But it's not like everyone's not improving or not benefiting from the choices you make for that group. So you look at, so let's just talk about expense for a trip. And this goes for any time. An out-of-town tournament, let's say for us to come to Saskatoon, I got to drive there, maybe take some time off from work. You got to get a couple hotels. I'm eating out all the time. Maybe the boys have a couple drinks in the rooms or whatever. So it all adds up, right? So let's call it $700 for me to go to that tournament, plus the cost of the tournament. The opposite of that is maybe I get a group of 10 kids together and we all pool our $700. Now that's $7,000. So just think about that, $7,000. I don't know what ice is in Saskatchewan, but in Edmonton, we get it for like $250, $200, somewhere in there. You know how many ice times that is? So that's just ice times. Plus I can bring in a skill coach if I want, and he might have to pay him $150. So let's say it's all in 400, 450. Divide, 7,000 divided by 450, how many sessions that is. So where my son or daughter get more out of, whatever, someone might be good at math, but 7,000 divided by 450, how many ice times and skill sessions to get that, or a weekend tournament in Saskatoon or Banff or whatever it is. So where's the bigger bang for the buck going to come from? And I think some people, they just think of the tournaments, they don't really think about, they say, oh, it's only $700. I get that, but if you all collectively pool your money together, it makes a big difference. And I've done that with my younger son. We have about 15 families. We, instead of going to Steve Serdachny's or whoever's tournament money, we bought 24 ice sessions. And then I hired a skating coach, and I go on the ice, and another dad goes on the ice. So we don't get paid. I think we pay this guy like, I want to say 200 or something like that. But, you think about it, like, it's like, I think we paid like $400 or something. And that is 24 skill sessions, skating session with this guy, with me and another guy pushing pucks. So it's pretty good. And that's a lot of value for your money. And if you don't want to have a skill coach, no problem. The money still makes sense because it's 15 families, right? And that's more my head's going towards, because it's a lot cheaper. Not that I'm cheap, but it also makes sense. Like, for $400, I can get 24 ice sessions. Like, that's a pretty good value. In at least what we pay here in Edmonton. Again, I don't know what it is like in Saskatchewan, but ice isn't as cheap. Maybe it's not as cheap. I don't know.
No, that was great.
I got a quick question for you. A couple, actually. Just to clarify, you're doing the U9s, but did you do them in U7s as well, or did you just inherit whatever you kind of got when you started U9?
Yeah, so I coached my oldest son for 5 years. So what do we do in Edmonton is that it's our association is pretty big. I think we had like 250 kids in that's what we call senior Timbits. So my daughter is the same age, so they were on the same group. So we had kids that, you might call them a 10, and then we had kids that were like a 4 maybe, right? And I ran that whole group. So we'd have 40, 50 kids on the ice, and I would just run them. So there I was really basic too. I would have 4, 5, 6 stations and just try to keep them moving as much as possible. So it was a huge wide range of kids. And, it's you're trying to just kind of make everyone better and have a good time. And I took it seriously, but I wasn't like, really on top of them. The kids were, well, at that time they were 6 or 7, they were 5 and 6. So I think the important part is to have fun and want to come back again and, not have too many tears and all that stuff. So I of the kids I taught in those years, I really only had my son when we got to novice, the U9, the 2 U9 years, because we were so spread out. Like, we had so many people, so many kids that, by the time they put us all in the same tier and put us all together, we were really spread out. So no, I didn't. I knew some of the kids, but I never coached them, because I had 50 other kids. And like I said, I had, an A to a Z player. Like, I was all over. Like, my daughter, she plays hockey. I don't actually know why she does, but she does. And she loves it, but my son loves it. And so you can imagine the difference in their desire and interest, and ability. But so that's so I didn't inherit my team at all.
With that, just focused on skating, I assume, at that younger age, like the very basics, or yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so at that young U7, I'd make it so generic. And then I should say this for both programs, U7 and U9, I would do the same practice twice in a row, always. A couple of things. One, the kids aren't learning the drills. They're trying to work on their skills. 2, you got Tyler Dickey, who never looks at the practice plan. Now he knows the practice plan because he's already done it one time, right? So you don't have to worry about coaching those coaches again. So I would have it very generic. So that was really basic. I was like, like even lower level 2-foot stops, trying to get them stick handed with the puck, some passing, but just really constantly moving. Like, I didn't even just set up drills where we have, we just have, because a lot of times in our, I don't know how you guys do it, but we'd split into we'd have one line, we'd have a group like this. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots. So even here, I would just put the net here, and I would just have, just pylon, 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 then stick, stick, stick. So kids start here, they weave around, they're weaving, come through here, make a move, make a move, make a move, shoot, get right back here and go again. So they'd be going for maybe 6 minutes constant. Then I have the opposite one here. Then maybe in here, this usually the middle was skating, stopping or edge work, whatever. And then down here might be some shooting or passing or something like that. And the goal for this is to be constantly going. My grandpa used to tell me idle hands are the devil's workshop. So I don't think he was talking about U7 hockey, but I took it as that way. And I was just trying to keep the kids moving as much as possible. Like no stopping. And just try to get them to want to come back. Like if they have fun, I'd start with the game. So I would start the game there, like, whatever, cops and robbers or whatever game you want for the first 10 minutes. Then we have 40 minutes of practice and then last 10 minutes games. Then they all come off, they want to come back. Like I wanted my whole group to register for hockey next year. Because if they're not playing hockey, we can't make them better.
Okay, no, thanks for that. The second question is for position specific. From the sound of it, obviously you're not necessarily against it, but not a strong advocate for it. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, I'd say if you're talking U9, U7 is just a gong show. You just hope they want to go out there and not cry. But with U9, what I would do, I'd always have three players and sort of 3 skaters and 1 defenseman. So let's say this is our net down here. So when we were lining up, we wouldn't have many whistles, but I always have 1, 2, 3, and then I have a D back. Always, always, always. So on the bench, Jason would say, okay, you 3 are forwards. I didn't care what position, it doesn't matter. But then, like Blaine, your defense. So Blaine will go out there and play D. And the only rule I'd have is I didn't want anyone from the other team behind him, right? So let's say we're all in here. We got our group. We're up here battling. And this is Blaine, the D-man right here. I didn't want to see anyone behind us. So I wanted them to start to being aware that it had to be between our net and their guy, right? So if all their guys were up in here like this, I wanted our D right on that line, so there's no one past them. So that's all I taught: 3 and 1, 3 and 1, all the time. And then so you would only be a D for one shift. The next time would be Jason. You're always changing it. Now, if you're short players, because we play 4 and 4, if you're short, the D man would always be the one to double shift. So this guy hears a whistle, he comes, tags up, and he comes right back out. Now he's a forward. That's how I always ran it. But no, I just think that there's so many skills to learn that are they're not position specific, and you got to learn. Like, I think it's a little bit of my own. I don't know if it's insecurity, but my own holes in my game. Like, I didn't have a lot of offensive instincts, and I'm not blaming my coaches for that. I wasn't a Hall of Famer, but like I just never learned those things, and I wasn't really in my body. Right? It wasn't in my soul, but you want those kids to learn to get out of their comfort zone and try different things. Try to create offense. Like today, you want to create as much offense as you can. And I think it's easier to teach defense later than it is to teach offense later. Those instincts, the desire to get to the net and make plays and just even get your head up and looking to make a pass. Like those are all things I think we should be coaching more now rather than defense. There's the basics like angling, you get to Adam or stick on puck and, positioning, all that stuff. But, I think it's way easier to learn that stuff as you go rather than having to reprogram someone to learn how to be offensive.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thank you.
You got it.
Anything else here? We're looking at an hour 15.
Jason, do you got any ideas for like forechecking and stuff like that? The one thing I find is in the U7, when they go up to the U9 and then they go to the U11, we really struggle with kids forechecking. They just sit back and watch the other team. Do you got any ideas or anything with that?
I think it goes back a little bit to the idea of teaching aggression. And like aggression is not probably the best word to put into your parent meeting letter, but teaching to go and get the puck. So that drill we talked about, the one about the one about where you race off the wall to the puck, the Thunderdome. That'll teach them like to be aggressive, right? To get get on their toes and battle for it. But a drill that I like to run, I'm running this year specifically the U11s. So I'll set up some pylons here like this. And then let's say I have, just for this situation, I have 2 forwards and a D. All right. So these guys or girls are skating around in a figure 8. No order, just figure 8. The coach is here. And then usually I time it so that, let's say the D-man is just coming around this pylon here, and I'll dump the puck in. Now this D-man has to go and get it, and these 2 guys have to forecheck him right away. And then to end the drill, this guy has to skate the puck past the top of the circles, or this girl, wherever the case may be. Right? So you're teaching these kids, the idea is first person gets on the puck, tries to stop that guy, and the second person is coming to support and take the puck away. Then you're also working with your D-man, and you're rotating all. But they've got to get their head up. Whereas if the guys come from over here, I'm skating this way. He's coming this way. I'm skating this way. So you're learning a lot of skills in this small drill. Then as the kids get a little, decent at that, now what I can do is I can have 2 D-men and 3 forwards. And we're all going around. We're all going around again. Again, when there's a D-man close to it, I can dump the puck in and he can rush in there. Maybe his buddy can help out. Then 2 forwards, and then the other forward comes in here, whatever your forecheck is. And again, to get it out, the drill ends when this guy skates it out, or these 3 forwards score a goal. So it's really basic, but I think what happens is that a lot of times we set up a perfect scenario so the forwards are like, I try to recreate so it's like a game. So, like you can see. So I'm trying to set it up so that it's like a game that they're going in a game. But a game doesn't start where like this guy is exactly here, F1, and F2 is exactly here, and F3 is right here. Like it never works out like that in a game. So I'm trying to create a situation where they have to read and react. When I'm coming around here, who's F1? What's the closest person, right? This is F2 and F3. The closest guy is the little guy in the puck. F2 will come in to support, and F3 comes over here. Because that's in a game what happens. It's never perfect in a game. I always try to put them in a situation where they have to make a choice. What's my choice? What's my choice here? What do I have to do? Where do I have to go? So that drill has been really, and someone else passed that one on to me. And so I'm not going to take credit for that one. I'll take credit for every other drill I've given you tonight, but not that one. And that one's a great drill because, we want them to think on their own. You can't, it can't just be where they're robots. Where they're robots, they're going to break down and freeze in a game. But if they look around, there's no one else around me, I'm F1. It's just, I'm F1 right away. Then the second person, if there's no one else, I'm F2. And then F3 knows they go. I always have my kids support high at the top of circles. You guys can do whatever you want, but that's just an example. And that way they react and they just know that's my job. Now going back to my own end, I do make them play their positions at Adam because I think it's trying to figure out I'm F1 now, I'm left wing or whatever. Like if you're a center, wherever you are, you go back into the center position. Same with left wing, right? I think it's just easier. Again, that's just my own preference, but the forechecking, they let them figure it out. And it might take all year, but eventually they will figure it out.
Hey, Jason, just to clarify there on that figure 8 forecheck that you just showed, is the defenseman stationary waiting?
Nope. Sorry, no. Everyone's
waiting also.
Because I want those D-men, reacting too. Like, so if there's 5 people, all 5 are going around the time. All 5. Because I want those D-men reacting too. Like, as a D-man, I can tell you, it's nerve-wracking because you're like, holy geez, I got to go get this puck, right? And so I have it upside down. So that the puck can go anywhere you want. You can put it here, here, here. You can put it anywhere you want. I would suggest at first to give the D-man a chance. Don't dump it in here when they're way over here.
Right.
You want to kind of have them as they're coming around. I kind of give it so there's a bit of a race, but they have a chance. Not so much that the 2 forwards are over here and the D-man's here, but kind of have them so close so there's a bit of a fight. But you want your D-man because you're training your D-man to make plays out of this spot. But it doesn't have to just be a D-man. If Blaine, Joel, and I are all going, if I'm the D-man, well, sometimes it's good for me to be the forechecker as a D-man too. But also for Blaine, if he's the forward, to go back and check his shoulder and get it out of his zone. Because these are checking your shoulder is transferable skill, whether you're a forward or a D. It doesn't matter what you are. If you're a forward and there's a rebound that goes into the corner, I got to go get it. On my way, I should check my shoulder so I can see where that pass is. Like how many times you see in Washington with Backstrom, he checks his shoulder On the way, Ovi sets up right here. He just comes, doesn't even look, and fires it. Well, he did look. He looked where he was going. He knew Ovi was going there. He just fires it over to Ovi and goal. Oh my God, a no look pass. No, actually, it was a look pass. You just didn't see the look, right? So I don't want to, Joel, I know that's your favorite player, but so Backstrom isn't a magician like you think he is.
They're Bruin fans.
Oh, geez. Okay, well then, yeah. Actually, I think what's his name does have no look ability. What's Bergeron, the guy in the center? He is really good. So that's my opinion. Like, you know, and we're getting a little off topic, and I love talking about it. But my thing is put the kids in situations they'll see in the games. You know, don't make it perfect for them. Like it can't be always perfect. Like sometimes it's got to be messed up. You want them to read and react so they're making the choice. So like I say, like with the passing for the breakout for the D, you make sure they know how to pivot or to turn. They can make the pass, but now they have to do it under pressure. Otherwise, they can be perfect with everything. If they never practice under pressure, it's not a game. So I try to put my kids under a situation where it's always under pressure. They're always bad. Like here, since if you got a second, I'll show you guys a drill. This one I actually did invent. You can call this one the Strudwick. So this one is all about putting the kids under pressure. And I absolutely love this drill. I've had really good success. So it goes out of both ends. So we'll have the kids lined up like this. Okay, and then they'd be in this end too. So 4 kids go at once. All 4 kids have a puck. So they're all in here like this. So they're all just skating around in here, and they're trying to knock each other's puck off. So in the first whistle, 4 kids jump here, 4 kids jump in here. They're all skating around. They're knocking each other's puck off. So you knock it out. If you know your puck loses, the coach will throw you another one. You keep going. So now they're protecting the puck and their head up, trying not to hit each other. On the first whistle, number 1 leaves. He comes all the way around and he's going to come around this corner and shoot here. Number 2 does the same thing on the second whistle, 3, and then 4. You guys got that. That's pretty basic, right? But then what I do after they figure the drill out, still the same thing. Now what we do is I'll blow the whistle really quick. Number 1 leaves, and I'll blow the whistle again. Number 2 follows him with no puck. So now 1's going and 2 is chasing him down as fast as he can all the way down the ice. Then I'll blow the whistle a 3rd time. Number 3 leaves. Number 4 chases him. Because what I see all the time is I see these beautiful drills where we're skating around like this, no pressure. The kids are going 50%. Tyler Dickey's yelling at them, and they're going like 50%. Go faster, go faster. Well, in this drill, if you don't go faster, Joel Houseman will catch you. So the big thing is, so they're working, you think, well, it's tight turn, then they're going down and shooting, right? So they're learning to play under pressure. They're learning to do things in a hurry. So first, they're protecting the puck in that small area because there's 3 other people trying to knock the puck away. They got to remember what number they are. Oh, I'm number 1. I'm gone. Number 2, I chase them down. Now they're tight turn. And sorry, all the kids carry the puck. So number 2 also carries the puck. So they carry their puck and try to knock their puck away. So you have 4 kids going on that first whistle, and another 4 kids going. So you have 16 kids. You actually have eight kids going every other shift. So the tempo is really high and they get tired. But it's great because like they're being chased and now they're working on it. So they get in the game. They're used to that feeling being chased. When we just do the old $2, skate up and down the ice with no pressure, then you get in the game and Blaine's like, you gotta skate. Well, how do you mean I'm supposed to skate? I haven't skated all under pressure at all, right? So that one might be a good one for Fort Capel from what I remember, Tyler Dickey.
If I could just chime in there, I really like the way you were talking about, not worrying so much about positioning. And when it comes on the defensive side, I coach AA Bantam, and the worst thing, looking back on it, and just words of advice for people coaching a novice and Adam, the worst thing to do is to identify positions because for the most part, like you say, those D-men become very stagnant, hesitant on pucks. They stand. So every pass they make and every pass they receive is standing still. And when you come to AA Bantam level, I'd rather, like, everybody's looking for a puck moving defenseman that has the skills of forward. And actually the way, we gear things is that those D-men could eventually be forwards playing AAA midget because they have that skill set. So I do think you raise a really good point there that, and also another thing too, that I've noticed over the years, it's kind of a shame that there's been some fantastic kids that have been, found in Pee Wee, let's say Pee Wee AA, that their position is defense, but they're very offensive oriented, and then coaches pigeonhole, wow, he's not going to be too big, so we throw him as a forward, and then you get him in bantam or midget, and it's like either you try to convert him, but the odds of that is pretty rare. They've kind of thrown their lot in. Maybe a coach has made that decision for him, and you miss out on so many, I think, good opportunities for kids by pigeonholing that way. So sorry to be on a soapbox, but I think you raise a great point on the defense side.
But for being honest, the problem is that, like, I know I'm going to lose games because of the choice they make. I know that. I'm not putting everyone in their best spot, and this year we just so you kind of know what happened here, at least at U11, we had a really late start. We kind of did cohort things. I got my team for 3 weeks, and we played 2 games. The first game we lost 7-3. The second game we lost 4-3. But I didn't work once on systems before those games, not once. So the other coach would look at me like, "What are you doing? What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I don't need to work on that right now. We got to get these kids playing with pace and tempo, and I want them to learn how I want them to practice before we do it." And unfortunately, we got shut down now. So I don't know if I don't know if I was ever right. I know I was, but I don't know if I was ever. I won't be proven right. But I'm willing to lose games to build it the right way, and then at the end, I hope it pays off. And then the end isn't the end of first year Adam or second year Pee Wee. These kids are better players for the whole experience. And it's you got to roll the dice, and you have to have your parent group buy into you to what you're trying to do. But I figure if you can teach a kid to pass, play with tempo, be intense, have all the different skills, you have a team that's very, very manageable. You do a lot of different things, and you might not win in September, but I like to think that by the end, because you're going to work on your systems, but you got to have a framework of who we are, and then you put that into your system rather than saying this is our system, than trying to build the players inside. That's how I believe it. Now, you guys probably want to play against me because you're going to beat me, but that's how I think it works well.
That was great. We're now into an hour and a half, so I think that's a wrap. I just want to say thank you. That was incredible.
Yeah, you got it. I'm passionate about the half ice hockey. Like I love the half ice, and if anyone has any questions, you can just shoot me an email. Maddie has my email, and I sent you the link is at the beginning of our group chat there for my article. And
yeah, it's on your other webinar as well.
Yeah,
we have it in there. Developing Defenceman.
If you have any good ideas, honestly, send me. Like I'm all ears to learn. Like I think that we have to park our egos at the door. Because I've learned so much in the last 2 years that, my God, some of the drills I did at the beginning, I'm like, I remember one guy said we have to do angling. The kids could barely skate in my first year of novice. And I'm like, this is crazy. Why are we doing this? And that's when I started deciding we're just going to work on the basics and just build them up as strong as they can. And then we'll fill in the gaps when they get older because they're better.
Awesome. So on behalf of Saskatchewan Hockey, I just want to say thanks, and thanks to the MHAs that joined in as well.
Yeah, take care, guys. When we play, you guys be gentle with us, right? We're just simple Edmonton people.